The great hall of the Kepler Collective fell silent as Elder Zephyrian stepped forward. His blue skin looked pale in the dim light. Around him sat the leaders of 7 different alien races. All of them looked tired and scared. "My friend Zephyrian," began, his voice shaking, "we have run out of time." At the holographic display behind him showed their territory. Red markers covered most of the map. Each red dot meant another world lost to the enemy. The Verakoth swarm had been attacking for 3 years. They showed no mercy. Commander Thelos of the military forces stood up. His forearms moved as he spoke. "Our last fleet was destroyed at Kepler 9 yesterday. We lost 8,000 ships. The swarm lost nothing important." A female Altari named Nelia spoke next. She was the head scientist. "Their technology adapts. Too fast. Every weapon we make, they learn to stop it. Every shield we build, they break through it." The room filled with worried whispers. Some leaders looked at the floor. Others stared at the red markers on the map. Zephyrian raised his hand for quiet. "The swarm has taken 47 of our worlds. 2 billion of our people are dead. Children hide in underground shelters while crystal monsters hunt them." He paused and looked around the room. "We have tried everything. We offered to surrender. They killed our messengers. We tried to run. They followed us. We built bigger weapons, and we built bigger teeth." Another leader stood up. His name was Korath. He came from a race that looked like tall cats. "What are you saying, Elder? That we should give up?" "No," Zephyrian said firmly. "I am saying we need to try something dangerous. Something our people said we should never do." The room went completely quiet. Everyone knew what he meant. There were old laws about contacting the Outer Rim worlds, the dangerous places where civilized people did not go. Nelia shook her head. "The forbidden protocols are forbidden for good reasons. The species out there are wild, violent. They come from Deathworlds. Deathworlds that made them strong," Zephyrian replied. "Strong enough to survive what kills us." He walked to the display and pointed to the outer edge of the galaxy. Dark areas with few stars. "Our ancestors made contact with some of them long ago. The story scared us so much we banned all contact." Thylos crossed his forearms. "Those are just old stories. Legends about monsters with teeth and claws." They Zephyrian asked. "Or are they stories about survivors? About species that learned to fight because their worlds tried to kill them every day?" An old female leader named Vesa spoke up. She was very old and very wise. "I remember the stories my grandmother told about creatures that hunted in packs, that could heal from wounds that should kill them, that never stopped fighting." "Fairy tales," Thylos said, "made up to scare children." Vesa looked at him with her large eyes. "My grandmother saw the records, real contact reports from 1,000 years ago. There was one species that impressed our people so much, they called them the Children of Death." The room stirred with interest and fear. Zephyrian nodded. "The reports were sealed and hidden. But I have read them. This species came from a world so dangerous that just living there made them almost impossible to kill." He touched a control and the map changed. It showed the furthest edge of known space. System designation Sol. 3rd planet. Classification in our old files. Extreme hazard, do not approach. Nelia studied the display. "The gravity is twice what we can handle. Atmosphere would poison us. The weather includes violent storms and temperature changes that would kill us in minutes." "Yes," Zephyrian said. "And yet something lives there. Something that our ancestors feared and respected." Commander Thylos walked to the display. "Even if these Deathworld creatures exist, why would they help us? What could we offer them?" "Everything," Zephyrian said simply. "Our knowledge. Our technology, our art, and culture. Everything we are, if it means our children might live." The debate went on for hours. Some leaders said it was too dangerous. Others said it was their only hope. Outside the Great Hall, the war continued. More red markers appeared on the map. Finally, Vesa stood up slowly. Her old bones creaked. "I was young when the swarm first appeared in our galaxy. Back then they were far away. Someone else's problem. We told ourselves they would never reach. Us. She looked around the room. Now they are here. Our children are dying. Our worlds are burning. If there is even a small chance that the Deathworld species can help us, we must try. One by one, the leaders voted. It was not easy. Many were scared of what they might awaken, but they were more scared of watching their people die. The vote was close. 4 races voted yes, 3 voted no. But it was enough. Zephyrian walked to an ancient control panel. It had not been used for 1,000 years. The deep space beacons will broadcast our message to the outer rim. To places no civilized species goes. His hand shook as he entered the codes. If the old stories are true, something will hear us. Something that might save us or destroy us. The message was simple, but desperate. It said, "To anyone who receives this signal, we are the Kepler Collective. We are dying. The Vrakith swarm is destroying our worlds. We cannot stop them. We offer everything we have to anyone who will help us survive. Please, we beg you, help us." The beacon activated with a deep humming sound. The signal spread out into space at the speed of light. It would take weeks to reach the outer rim worlds. Then they waited. Days passed with no answer. Then weeks. Some leaders began to think the Deathworld species were just legends after all. The war got worse. The swarm attacked 3 more worlds. Refugees filled the remaining planets. Food was running short then. On a quiet night, when everyone had almost given up hope, the communication center received a signal. It came from the darkest part of space. The signal was weak and full of static. The voice that came through spoke Galactic Standard, but with a strange accent. The words were simple but strong. Message received. We heard you. Help is coming. Do not give up. Hold your positions. The cavalry is on the way. Nalaya ran a trace on the signal. Her equipment worked for several minutes before finding the source. When the location appeared on her screen, she almost fell out of her chair. Elder Zephorian, she called, her voice full of shock. You need to see this.
Bye!
The signal had come from System Sol, the 3rd planet. The death world that their ancestors had marked as too dangerous to approach. Zephyrian stared at the display. So the stories were true. Something does live there. But what kind of something? Thylos asked. What have we awakened? Outside their windows, the stars looked the same as always, cold and distant. But now, something was moving in the darkness. Between the stars, something was coming from the most dangerous world in the galaxy. The children of the Death World had heard their cry for help, and they were coming. Whether that was salvation or doom, only time would tell. 3 weeks after the mysterious signal from Sol 3, space near the Kepler border station began to shimmer. The sensors showed something big coming through the jump gate. Something that should not exist. Commander Thylos watched from the command center as 12 ships appeared. They looked old and damaged. Metal patches covered their hulls. Some had burns from weapon fire. Others had dents from asteroid impacts. Those ships are ancient, said Nalaya, studying the readings. Some parts are over 200 years old. How are they still flying? The lead ship was bigger than the others, but still small by collective standards. It sent a communication request. Thylos accepted it with shaking hands. A face appeared on the screen. It was unlike anything in the collective. Database. The creature had pale skin and dark hair on its head. Its eyes were small and set close together like a predator. When it opened its mouth, Thylos saw sharp white teeth. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the EU's Ranger, the creature said. Its voice was deep and rough. We got your message. Sorry. It took us so long to get here. Had to gather what ships we could. Thylos found his voice. You are from Sol 3, the Death World. Morrison smiled, showing more of those sharp teeth. We call it Earth. And yeah, it tries to kill us pretty regular. But we are stubborn. Mind if we come aboard? Should talk face to face? Thylos looked at Nalaya. She was studying her sensors with wide eyes. Commander, she whispered, there? Biology readings are impossible. Their blood temperature should kill them. The radiation they are giving off would poison us. Can they survive in our environment? Thylos asked. Nalaya checked her data again. They should be fine. We might die in theirs, but they seem able to handle almost anything. An hour later, Captain Morrison and 3 of his crew came aboard the collective station. They wore simple clothes that looked like they were made for work, not ceremony. Fancy uniforms or decorations. Morrison was tall and moved like he was ready for trouble. His crew included a woman with red hair who carried tools, a man with dark skin who had medical supplies, and another woman with black hair who kept watching everything around her. "I am Commander Thylos," the Altari leader said, trying not to stare at the strange aliens. "This is Science Coordinator Nalaya. We are grateful you came, but we do not understand." "Why did you answer our call?" Morrison looked around the meeting room. His small eyes took in every detail. Someone was hurting innocent people. We do not like that much. The woman with tools stepped forward. "I am Engineer Katie Sullivan. We heard your message about these swarm creatures. They sound like bad news." The medical man spoke next. "Dr. Ben Rodriguez. We brought supplies and medicine. Figured you might need both." The woman with black hair stayed quiet but kept watching. Morrison noticed Thylos looking at her. "That is Lieutenant Amy Chen, our tactical officer. She is thinking about how to fight your enemy." Nalaya pulled up the data about the Vrakith swarm. "They are crystalline beings, very hard to kill. They adapt to our weapons quickly. Ships are grown, not built. They seem to share one mind across their entire species." Katie looked at the pictures with interest. "Hive mind, huh? That is both good and bad. It's good because take out the right nodes and you can mess up their coordination. Bad because they all know everything any one of them learns." "You've fought hive minds before?" Thylos asked. Amy Chen finally spoke. Her voice was calm and cold. "We have fought everything Earth could throw at us. At animals, weather, each other. A species that works as one big group is just another kind of predator." Dr. Rodriguez was studying the medical data on swarm victims. "These wounds are interesting. The crystal shards seem to grow inside the victims, like an infection that turns organic matter into more crystal. Our doctors cannot treat it," Nalaya said sadly. "Once someone is infected, they become part of the swarm in a few days." Rodriguez smiled, and Thylos realized it was not a nice smile. "Good thing we brought medicine from Earth. Our planet has been trying to kill us with diseases and toxins for millions of years. We got very good at making cures for impossible things." Morrison walked to the star map showing swarm territory. "How many worlds have they taken?" 47 confirmed, Thylos said. "Maybe more. They move fast and leave nothing alive behind them." "How many people?" Thylos hesitated. "Over 2 billion dead. 3 billion more refugees." Morrison was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was harder. "Katie, how long to get our ships ready for combat? Give me 6 hours to check the weapons and patch the worst damage. We have been traveling hard to get here." Amy Chen was studying the tactical data. "Their ships are tough, but they rely on mass attacks, swarm tactics. Probably never fought anyone who could take real punishment." "What do you mean?" Nalaya asked. Chen looked at her with those small, cold eyes. "They are used to fighting people like you. Smart, civilized, fragile. They come in huge numbers and crush you with sheer force, and humans are different," Morrison answered. "Our world taught us that numbers do not always win. Sometimes the nastiest, most stubborn fighter is the one left standing." Katie pulled out a tool and started taking apart a piece of collective technology. "Your stuff is really advanced. It's much better than ours in most ways. But it is built by people who never had to fight a hurricane or a volcano." She held up a circuit board. "This is beautiful, complex, delicate. One good hit and it breaks. Gear is ugly and simple, but it keeps working, even when everything goes wrong." Dr. Rodriguez was looking at biological samples from the collective species. "Your people are impressive. Long lives, advanced minds, peaceful societies. But your bodies are not built for war. And yours are," Thylos asked. Rodriguez grinned. "Commander, we come from a world where the weather can kill you. The animals want to eat you, the plants can poison you, and the ground shakes apart under your feet. Our bodies had to get tough or we would have died out long ago. Morrison walked back to the group. We need to see one of these swarm attacks. Study how they fight. Then we can plan. Elia shook her head. That is too dangerous. Their ships will destroy yours in minutes. Amy Chen made a sound that might have been laughter. You do not understand. We are not here to run away if things get bad. We are here to end this. But there are billions of them, and only thousands of you, Alos protested. Morrison looked at him with those predator eyes. Commander, let me tell you about Earth. Our planet has tried to kill us with ice ages that lasted thousands of years. Volcanoes that blocked out the sun. Diseases that killed half our people. Predators with claws longer than your arm and teeth. Like daggers, he paused. Every time, some of us survived. Every time, we got stronger. The things that did not kill us made us harder to kill the next time. Katie finished fixing the collective device and handed it back. Your gear works better. Now, I made it more durable. It will not break as easy. Elia tested the device. It worked perfectly, but the readings showed it was much more resistant to damage. How did you do that so quickly? Practice, Katie said simply. When everything you own has to survive daily disasters, you learn to build things that last. Dr. Rodriguez packed up his medical samples. I will work on treatments for the crystal infection. Should have something ready in a few days. Days and Elia was amazed. Our best scientists have worked on this for months. Different approach, Rodriguez said. You try to cure the disease. You learn to poison the things that try to kill us. Stood to leave? We will be ready to fight tomorrow. Show us where the swarm is attacking next. Tomorrow. Alos could not believe it. You just arrived. Do you not need time to rest? To plan? Morrison smiled that predator smile again. Commander, we have been planning since we got your message. As for rest, we can sleep when the bad guys are all dead. After the humans left, Thylos and Elia sat in silence. What have we done? Elia whispered. Those are not civilized beings, they are killers. Dylos watched the human ships through the window. They looked small and fragile compared to collective vessels. Maybe that is exactly what we need. But what if they decide we are enemies too? Thylos thought about Morrison's eyes when he heard about the 2 billion dead. I do not think we have to worry about that. They came here to stop bullies and save innocents. The swarm should be worried. Outside, the human ships moved into formation. They looked ready for trouble. Trouble was exactly what they had come to find. The alarm sirens screamed across Kepler 7 mining station as the Vrakoth swarm arrived. Hundreds of crystal ships appeared at once, their surfaces glowing with deadly energy. They moved like hungry animals toward the helpless station. Commander. Lisa Park stood on the bridge of her patrol ship, the UES Phoenix. Around her, 11 other human vessels spread into attack formation. They looked tiny compared to the massive swarm fleet. Contact the station, Park ordered. Tell them to get their people underground. This is about to get messy. The collective defenders tried to fight. Their energy shields flared bright blue as crystal weapons hit them. But the shields failed. Quickly, swarm ships swarmed around the collective vessels like angry insects. Within minutes, most of the alien ships were dead in space. All human ships, this is Park, the commander said into her radio. Remember the plan? Hit hard, move fast, do not give them time to adapt. Lieutenant Rick Turner piloted his fighter toward the largest swarm ship. His small craft shook his enemy. Fire exploded around him. The radiation from the crystal weapons would kill most aliens in seconds. Rick just turned up his air recycler and kept flying. Phoenix Base, this is Turner. Beginning attack run on the big ugly one. The swarm ship was huge and covered in sharp crystal spines that sparked with electricity. It looked like a floating mountain of death. Rick aimed his missiles at what looked like weak spots and fired. The explosions barely scratched the crystal hull. But Rick was not done. He flew straight at the enemy ship, dodging between the deadly spines. Other pilots would have pulled away. Rick got closer. Turner, what are you doing? Park called over the radio. These things adapt to long-range attacks, Rick replied. Let us see how they handle close-up work. He fired his remaining weapons point-blank into the crystal ship's surface. This time, cracks appeared. The swarm ship shuddered and began to list to one side. Meanwhile, Sergeant Danny Brooks led a boarding team onto a smaller swarm vessel. The airlock cut through the crystal hull like it was soft rock. Inside, the ship was a nightmare of sharp edges and toxic gas. "Masks on, people," Brooks told his Marines, "and watch out for those crystal growths. They move when you are not looking." The inside of the swarm ship was alive. The walls pulsed like a heartbeat. Strange lights flickered in patterns that hurt to look at. The air was full of acid that would dissolve collective equipment in minutes. Private Carol Davis followed Brooks through the twisting corridors. "Sarge, this place gives me the creeps." "Just another hostile environment," Brooks replied, stepping over a pit of bubbling liquid. "Remember the training simulations in the Nevada desert? This is not much worse." They found the ship's control center deep inside the vessel. It was a chamber full of floating crystals that hummed with energy. Strange creatures moved between. The crystals like living shadows. "Contact," Brooks called. "We got swarm drones in here." The creatures rushed at the humans with claws and teeth made of living crystal. They moved fast and hit hard. But they had never fought anything like Marines from Earth. Brooks fired his weapon at the nearest drone. It absorbed the energy blast and kept coming, so he switched to physical rounds. The bullets cracked the crystal skin, and the creature fell. "They adapt to energy weapons," he called to his team. "Use the old-fashioned stuff." The Marines fought room by room through the alien ship. The drones were tough and smart, but they were built to fight civilized enemies who would retreat when things got too dangerous. Humans did not retreat. When Private Mike Johnson ran out of ammunition, he used his combat knife. When the knife broke, he used his bare hands. Carol Davis got cut by crystal claws. She wrapped the wounds and kept fighting. The swarm drones had never seen anything like it. These creatures should have died from the toxic air minutes ago. They should have run when the first Marine got hurt. Instead, they got angrier and fought harder. On the Phoenix Bridge, Commander Park watched the battle through her sensors. The human ships were taking damage, but they kept attacking. The swarm was starting to make mistakes. "Their formation is breaking up," reported her tactical officer. "They are not used to enemies who fight back this hard." Dr. Helen Morris worked in the ship's medical bay, treating wounded humans with medicines that would kill most alien species. She used compounds made from Earth's deadliest plants and animals to heal injuries that should have been fatal. "Ow. Are they doing, Doc?" Park asked over the intercom. "Turner has radiation poisoning, but he will be fine in a few hours," Reese replied, while injecting a Marine with something that looked like liquid fire. "Brooks has crystal fragments in his arm, but they are not spreading like they do with the collective species." "Why not?" Morris smiled as she worked. "Human immune systems are used to fighting off everything Earth can throw at us. These crystal infections are nasty, but they are not worse than some of the diseases we deal with back home." The tide of battle began to turn. Rick Turner's damaged fighter limped back to the Phoenix, but not before ramming another swarm ship.
"Oh, the collision
Should have killed him.
Art.
Instead, he crawled out of the wreckage with a grin and a broken arm. "That was fun," he said as medical teams pulled him to safety. "Can we do it again?" Danny Brooks and his Marines captured the swarm ship's control center. They could not understand the crystal technology, but they could break it. Within minutes, the enemy vessel went dark and drifted helplessly. "Phoenix Base, we own this ship," Brooks reported. "What should we do with it? Can you fly it?" Park asked. "Probably not, but we can make it blow up real good." The captured swarm ship exploded in a ball of crystal fragments and energy. The blast damaged 3 other enemy vessels that were too close. Across the battle, human crews did things that should have been impossible. Engineer Tony Lopez kept his ship's engines running even after they took a direct hit from crystal weapons. The radiation should have killed him, but he just put on an extra radiation suit and kept working. Pilot Jenny Adams. Flu attack runs through energy storms that would blind most species. She navigated by instinct and aggression, hitting targets. She could barely see. Medic Frank Taylor treated wounded collective. Civilians using techniques that seemed like magic to the aliens. He used human medicine to save lives that alien doctors had given up on. the swarm began to retreat. For the first time in their species' memory, they faced enemies who would not break. Every time they thought they had one, the humans found new ways to fight. General Korath watched the battle from the mining station's command center. He had seen many battles against the swarm. They always ended the same way. The swarm won through sheer numbers and relentless attacks. This time was different. The human ships were tiny compared to the swarm fleet, but they fought like nothing he had ever seen. They took damage that would destroy collective vessels and kept attacking. When their weapons failed, they used their ships as weapons. When their ships were damaged, they kept fighting anyway. How are they still alive? Asked a collective officer, Korath. Studied the tactical display. Look at their medical readings. Radiation levels that would kill us in minutes. G-forces that would crush our bones. Internal injuries that should be fatal. Then they are still fighting. The swarm's hive mind was experiencing something new. For millions of years, it had conquered species across the galaxy. It always won because it could replace losses faster than enemies could inflict them. It also won because most civilized species would surrender before taking heavy casualties. These humans were different. They seemed to get more dangerous when they were hurt. They fought harder when things looked hopeless. The hive mind began to feel something it had forgotten existed. Fear. The remaining swarm ships fled toward deep space. They left behind dozens of their vessels, either destroyed or captured. The humans had lost no ships, though all of them were damaged. Commander Park opened a channel to the mining station. Kepler 7, this is Phoenix. The bad guys are gone. The guy can come out now. General Korath could hardly believe it. A handful of primitive ships had defeated a swarm attack fleet. How did you do it? Park's image appeared on the screen. She had a cut on her forehead and burns on her uniform. She was smiling. General, we come from a world that has been trying to kill us since we learned to walk. Space battles are almost relaxing compared to a Category 5 hurricane. The collective forces slowly emerged from their hiding places. They stared at the human ships with a mixture of awe and terror. These creatures had done the impossible. They had made the swarm run away. Admiral Steve Carter stood in the command center of the largest human fleet ever assembled. Through the windows, he could see 200 ships floating in space. Some were military vessels painted in gray metal. Others were cargo ships with weapons welded to their hulls. Few were even passenger liners that had been turned into troop carriers. "Sir, the civilian volunteers are reporting ready," said his aide, Lieutenant Nancy Williams. She used to run a shipping company before the war. Now she managed supplies for the entire fleet. Carter nodded. Good. We are going to need everyone for this one. The plan was simple but dangerous. The swarm had pulled back to their core worlds after losing too many battles to human forces. They were building up for one massive attack that would crush the collective once and for all. The humans were not going to wait for that attack. They were going to the swarm's home territory instead. Captain Jennifer Martinez walked into the command center. Her ship, the UES Defiance, had been in more battles than any other human vessel. It showed. Burn marks covered the hull, and one engine was held together with metal patches. "Martinez, how is your ship holding up?" Carter asked. "She will make it through one more fight," Martinez replied. "Maybe two if we are lucky. That should be enough. The intelligence says the swarm has most of their fleet protecting their home system. If we can break through there, we can end this war." Dr. Sarah Reynolds joined them at the planning table. She had been working on new weapons using organisms. "From Earth, Admiral, the biological weapons are ready. But I have to warn you, they are nasty. Once we use them, there is no going back." Carter looked at the star map showing swarm territory. Billions of creatures lived there. Most of them were probably innocent workers who just followed the hive mind's orders. But the hive mind itself had to be stopped. "How bad will it be?" asked Reynolds pulled up data on her tablet. "The weapon attacks the crystal matrix that holds their society together. It will not kill them directly, but it will break their hive mind connection. They will become individuals for the first time in millions of years." "Is that worse than death for them?" "I do not know," Reynolds said honestly. "But it is better than letting them kill everyone else in the galaxy." Meanwhile, on the other side of the fleet, civilian volunteers prepared for war. Teacher Mike Johnson checked the weapons on his converted school transport. Never thought I would be shooting at aliens when I started teaching math, he said to his crew. Farmer Carol Davis worked in the ship's hydroponics bay, growing food for the fleet. Back home, I fought crop diseases and insect swarms every season, she said while tending her plants. This is just farming on a bigger scale. The fleet also included collective vessels and crews. The aliens had learned to work alongside humans. Though it was not always easy, the differences between the species were huge. Commander Thylos served as liaison between human and collective forces. He still found human behavior confusing and sometimes frightening, but he had learned to trust them. Admiral Carter Thylos said, "The Collective Council is concerned about civilian casualties in the swarm core worlds." Carter looked at him with tired eyes. "Commander, we all wish there was another way, but the swarm will not negotiate, will not surrender. The only language they understand is force." "But surely some of them are innocent," Thylos pressed. "Workers, children, non-combatants." Engineer Frank Taylor looked up from the weapon systems he was checking. "Commander, with respect, the swarm does not see any of us as innocent. See us as food or obstacles. When someone is trying to wipe out your entire species, you do not get to be picky about how you stop them." The debate continued, but the fleet kept moving toward swarm space. Human ships pushed their engines harder than they were designed to handle. Collective vessels struggled to keep up with the brutal pace. Captain Martinez led the advanced scouts into enemy territory. Her ship's sensors detected massive swarm fleets gathering around their core worlds. Crystal ships bigger than cities floated in defensive formations. "Admiral, you need to see this," Martinez reported back to the fleet. "They have been busy while we were fighting in collective space." The tactical display showed the swarm's main fleet. Thousands of ships, some larger than anything the humans had ever seen. At the center was something that made even hardened veterans nervous. "What is that thing?" asked Lieutenant Williams. Dr. Reynolds studied the readings. "I think it is their queen ship, the central node of their hive mind. If we can destroy that, the entire swarm network might collapse." Mike Carter asked. "This is all theory, Admiral. We've never fought anything like this before." The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the swarm home system. Immediately, alarms began screaming as enemy sensors. "Found them. All ships, this is Carter." The Admiral broadcast to the fleet. "Remember why we are here. Every species in the galaxy is counting on us. Do not let them down." The swarm response was immediate and overwhelming. Crystal ships poured toward the human fleet like an angry river. Their weapons fired beams of energy that could cut through normal starship hulls like paper, but human ships were not normal. They had been built to survive in space around a dangerous star. Their hulls were thick, and their shields were designed to handle solar radiation that would cook most aliens. The battle began with long-range fire. Swarm weapons hit human ships and did damage, but not as much as expected. Human weapons fired back. Using new tactics they had learned from studying captured swarm technology, Captain Martinez dove her battered ship straight into the enemy formation. "Defiance to all ships. Follow me. We are going to punch a hole through their line." Other human captains followed without question. They had learned to trust each other in the fires of battle. The human ships formed a spear point aimed at the heart of the swarm fleet. Behind them, collective vessels provided support fire and rescued crew from damaged ships. The aliens were still not as tough as humans, but they had learned to be brave by watching their new allies. The space battle was unlike anything seen before in the galaxy. Human ships took damage that should have destroyed them and kept fighting. When the UES Ranger lost its main engines, its crew used maneuvering thrusters to ram an enemy vessel. When the civilian transport carrying Mike Johnson's crew was hit by crystal weapons, they did not retreat. Instead, Johnson ordered his people to fire everything they had and keep attacking. The swarm began to realize they were facing something beyond their experience. These humans fought like the galaxy's most dangerous predators, but they also showed intelligence and teamwork that matched any civilized species. More troubling for the hive mind was what happened when human ships were destroyed. Instead of giving up, The survivors were rescued by other humans who fought. Even harder to avenge their friends, the swarm had conquered the galaxy by breaking the will of their enemies. But humans seemed to get stronger when they lost people they cared about. Deep in the swarm fleet, the ancient queen felt something she had never experienced. Doubt for the first time in millions of years. Victory was not certain. Dr. Reynolds waited for her moment. The biological weapon was ready, but it had to be delivered at close range to the Queen's ship. That meant someone had to fly through the entire swarm fleet. "Admiral," she called over the radio, "I need a volunteer for a one-way mission." Before Carter could answer, dozens of voices responded. Human crews were fighting to be the ones to carry the weapon to its target. In the end, it was Captain Martinez who took the mission. Her ship was already badly damaged. She could get close to the Queen's ship, but she probably could not get back out. "It has been an honor serving with you all," Martinez said as her ship turned toward the massive enemy vessel. Behind her, the human fleet fought harder than ever. They knew their friend was flying toward almost certain death. They were going. To make sure she had a clear path, the Defiance raced through clouds of crystal debris and energy beams. Martinez pushed her ship past every safety limit. When the hull began to crack from stress, she kept going. When the engines started to fail, she switched to backup power. The Queen's ship grew larger in her view screen. It was beautiful and terrible, covered in crystal formations that pulsed with the thoughts of billions of swarm creatures. "This is for everyone who died fighting these monsters," Martinez said as she armed the biological weapon. The Defiance struck the Queen's ship like a bullet. The biological weapon spread through the crystal matrix faster than the swarm could adapt. Within minutes, the hive mind began to break apart. Across the battlefield, swarm ships stopped moving in coordination. Individual crystal creatures found themselves thinking their own thoughts for the first time ever. Many were too confused to fight. The battle was won, but the war was not over yet. There were still swarm fleets in other parts of the galaxy, but for the first time, it could be defeated. Admiral Carter looked at the chaos in the enemy fleet and allowed himself a small smile. "All ships, begin search and rescue operations. Let us bring our people home." 6 months after the battle at the Swarm Home Worlds, Captain Jake Morrison stood in the rebuilt council chamber of the Kepler Collective. Through the large windows, he could see ships from dozens of different species floating together in space. Human vessels worked alongside alien craft, sharing supplies and knowledge. The war was over. The Vrakoth swarm still existed, but they were no longer a threat. Without their hive mind, the crystal beings had split into thousands of small groups. Most had fled to the outer edges of the galaxy. Others had simply stopped fighting and tried to learn how to live as individuals. Elder Zephyrian walked slowly to the speaking platform. He looked older, but happier than when Morrison had first met him. "My friends," he began, "we gather today to decide the future of our galaxy." The chamber was full of representatives from many species. It's Morrison, recognized from the battles they had fought together. Others were new faces from worlds that had been freed from swarm control. "When we first sent our desperate message to the stars," Zephyrian continued, "we expected to find mercenaries or scavengers, people who would help us for payment and then leave. Instead, we found something we did not know existed." He looked directly at Morrison. "We found protectors. People who came not for profit, but because it was the right thing to do." Commander Thelos stood up from his seat. He wore new scars from the battles, but he carried himself with confidence that had not been there before. "The humans taught us something important. They showed us that sometimes the only way to protect peace is to be willing to fight for it." Morrison shifted uncomfortably. He had never liked speeches and ceremonies. He preferred action to words. "Doctor." Sarah Reynolds sat nearby, working on her tablet even during the formal meeting. She had been busy since the war ended, helping former swarm worlds recover. Kara. Biological treatments had saved millions of crystal beings who were struggling to live without the hive mind. "The question before us today," Zephyrian said, "is what happens next? Do we return to our separate worlds and hope no new threats appear? Or do we work together to build something better?" A young Altari named Kess stood up. She was one of many alien youths who had asked to serve on human ships during the war. "Elder Zephyrian, with respect, I think that question has already been answered. She gestured toward the windows where mixed crews worked together on ship repairs. Look out there, humans and collective citizens working as one crew. We have already started building something new. Morrison smiled slightly. The young aliens who had fought alongside humans were different from their elders. They had learned that courage was not about lacking fear, but about acting despite it. Engineer Katie Sullivan entered the chamber, carrying a device that looked like a combination of human and alien technology. "Sorry I am late," she said. "But I wanted to show everyone what we have been working on." She activated the device, and a holographic display appeared. It showed star charts with new routes connecting human and collective space. "We have been designing ships that use both our technologies. Human durability with collective efficiency." General Korath studied the display with interest. The old military leader had changed since working with humans. He was still cautious, but no longer afraid to take risks. These hybrid ships could explore regions that neither of our species could reach alone. Dr. Ben Rodriguez spoke from his seat near the medical section. "We have been doing the same thing with medicine, combining human treatments with collective knowledge. The results are better than either of us could achieve separately." Morrison finally stood up. The room went quiet as everyone waited to hear what the human captain would say. "When we first came here," Morrison began, "we thought we were just helping some people in trouble. We did not expect to find friends. We did not expect to find a new home among the stars." He looked around the chamber at the many different faces watching him. "Our species grew up on a dangerous world. We learned to be suspicious of strangers and quick to fight. But you've taught us something too." Zephyrian leaned forward with interest. "What did we teach you?" "It's that being strong is not just about surviving. It's about using that strength to help others survive too." Amy Chen entered the chamber with a group of young beings from various species. They all wore the same uniform and moved with the same confident purpose. "Admiral Carter sends his regards," she said to Morrison. "The new academy is ready for its first class." Morrison nodded. The Joint Military Academy was one of several projects that had grown out of the partnership between humans and the collective. Young beings from both sides would train together, learning to fight as one force. "There is something else," Chen continued. "We received a distress signal from the Rigel sector. A species called the Thanari is being attacked by something they call the Iron Devourers." The chamber erupted in worried whispers. Another threat. Another people in danger. Morrison looked at Zephyrian. "What do you think, Elder? Should we answer?" "Their call?" Zephyrian smiled. It was the first time Morrison had seen the old alien look truly happy. "Captain Morrison, 6 months ago, I would have been terrified by news of another aggressive species. Today I find myself feeling sorry for these Iron Devourers." "Why?" "Because they have no idea what they have started. They are about to learn. What happens when someone threatens innocent people in a galaxy that contains both humans and their friends?" The vote was unanimous. Combined fleet would respond to the Thanari distress call. And with this time they would not be going as separate species helping each other. They would be going as one people, united by shared values. Lieutenant Nancy Williams had been promoted to admiral and given command of the logistics fleet. She stood up to address the practical concerns. "We can have a response force ready in 2 weeks. 50 human ships, 30 collective vessels, and volunteers from the liberated worlds." "The Thanari will not know what to expect," said Thylos. "They ask for help from strangers. They will get family." As the meeting broke up, Morrison walked to the windows overlooking the mixed fleet. Engineer Katie Sullivan joined him there. "Penny for your thoughts, Captain?" she asked. Morrison watched human and alien crews working together on ship repairs. "I was thinking about Earth, about how our world tried to kill us every day and made us strong. Having second thoughts about leaving it?" "No," Morrison said firmly. "Earth made us strong so we could do this, so we could be guardians for people who could not guard themselves." Katie nodded. "I think the Iron Devourers will be as tough as the swarm." Morrison grinned, showing those predator teeth that had once frightened the collective representatives. "I hope so. It would be boring if they were too easy." Across the chamber, Young beings from different worlds talked excitedly about the new mission.
Us.
They showed no fear, only eagerness to help the Thanari people. The war against the swarm had changed them all. Elder Zephyrian approached Morrison as the crowd began to thin. "Captain, may I ask you something personal?" "Sure." "Do you ever miss the simple days when humans only had to worry about surviving on your own world?" Morrison thought about it for a long moment. "Elder, humans have always been explorers. We spread across our world because staying in one place felt like dying. Then we spread across our solar system for the same reason." He gestured toward the stars visible through the windows. "Now we know there's a whole galaxy full of people who need protecting. How could we go back to just worrying about ourselves?" Zephyrian nodded slowly. "When we begged the stars for aid, we thought we were asking for salvation from destruction. We did not realize we were asking for something much more important. What was that? We were asking to become part of something greater than ourselves, to join a family that spans the stars." As the last representatives left the chamber, Morrison remained at the window watching the ships. Tomorrow, they would begin preparing for another mission, another chance to help people in danger. The stars no longer looked cold and distant. They looked welcoming, full of friends and family scattered across the galaxy. And somewhere out there, the Iron Devourers were about to learn what the Swarm had learned, that in a galaxy protected by the children of Earth and their allies, bullies did not win. Protectors did. The Deathworlders had come to stay.